Hi, I'm Fire of the Spirit, and today I want to talk about why I chose St. Cecilia as my confirmation saint. So 2 years ago, I was in the confirmation program, and it became time to decide who we wanted to take as our confirmation saint. And I just remember feeling incredibly overwhelmed because there's over 10,000 saints. And I was just thinking, how could I possibly figure out the one that God was calling me to choose? So I was sitting at home one night in front of the computer, and I was doing research on a bunch of different saints. And my mom came up to me and she said, "You are passionate about so many things. Just research the saints who are the patrons of those things, and that will lead you to the right saint." So I decided to take my mom's advice, and the first thing that I researched was the patron saint of music. From my last video, I talked about how music has been such a big part of my life. And so I decided to start with that. And through that, I found St. Cecilia. St. Cecilia came from a rich family, and she was married off at a young age to a man named Valerian. But she had taken a vow of virginity, so during her wedding ceremony, she was singing to God in her head, "Please help me protect this vow." And during her wedding night, she told Valerian about her vow, which led to Valerian being baptized in the faith because he heard St. Cecilia talk about how there was an angel guarding her and protecting her. And while Valerian and his brother were out burying the saints who had died for their faith, St. Cecilia went out preaching the gospel and converting hundreds and hundreds of people to the faith. Well, eventually she was caught and she was sentenced to death by suffocation. So she was placed in a room for a day and a night where there was a fire burning and the room was all filled with smoke, so you couldn't breathe. But when they came in to check on her, they found that she hadn't even started sweating. So then they sentenced her to death by execution. The executioner went in and took 3 deadly swipes at her neck. And when her head wasn't coming off her body, the executioner flipped and then ran out of the room. And so she's there for 3 days on the ground, bleeding from her neck, and people are coming up to her, and she's still praising God, converting people, and it's so amazing. But eventually on that 3rd day, she did die. And in 1599, the church exhumed her body, and she became the first incorruptible saint in the Catholic Church. So after reading that, and doing a little more research, I just got so inspired by her story, by her zeal to live out the faith, by her conviction of her beliefs and her principles. And I just remember thinking, that's the person I want to be. I want to be like that. I want to be able to have such a conviction of my faith and of my morals and of my principles that I can go out into the world without fear of being persecuted, and I can preach the gospel. So a couple hours later, I was sitting and I was pretty content with what I had chose. And then a thought popped into my head. Ever since I was in 5th grade, ever since I started the cello, all the various cellos that I had had over the past 6 years had been named Cecilia. I had named them all Cecilia. And that was before I knew anything about her being the patroness of music. And that really just affirmed me in the thought that God has been personally watching over me and has been an active part in my life. So I just really encourage you guys, if you are picking a confirmation saint or if you are researching the saints at all, first, there is a website that I use, which is how I found St. Cecilia. It's called Catholic.org. It's great for a lot of things, but it's definitely great for looking at saints. You can search them by alphabetically, patronage, feast day. You can look at martyrs, Irish saints, female saints, whatever. It's super, super cool. But also, if you are thinking about who you want as your confirmation saint, really just take the time to read through stories and look for the saint that inspires you. Look for the saint that when you read their story, you think, I want to be a better person because of them. So choose a role model saint, and that'll really help you. Also spend time in prayer because God knows what saint is right for you. He's known since the beginning of time, since he is outside of time. So really take the time to ask him. And to end, I'd like to share a quote from St. Cecilia this is one that I really think uplifts me to go and live the life of a Catholic. Arise, soldiers of Christ, throw away the works of darkness, and put on the armor of light. I'm Fire of the Spirit. God bless.